Oh, what's up, everybody? Welcome. It's Orange Bloods Live. It's a brand new year. I'm Jeff Ketchum. That is Chad Hastings. Glad to be with you. Do us a solid. Hit that thumbs up button. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already done that. Go into the Specs chat. Join the conversation. And if you're watching this a little bit later, I don't know, maybe it's the 3rd, whatever, jump into the comments section and let us know. We're talking transfer portal. In fact, I feel like a different version of the transfer portal combat. Before we jump in, I don't even remember all of the other ones, but can we mix it up a little bit? Less.
Hey, you know where I'm going.
Round 1. Fight! Get over here!
It's an all-day portal combat, all-weekend portal combat thing. We could probably just run that. Back in the day when we used to do buy or sell and we put that bed of music behind it, we could just do that for the whole show. Just
that'd be a very tense conversation with that in the background the whole time.
I have found myself all day not quite knowing up and down and which guy I'm looking at and which situation I'm following. There is Cam Coleman. There is Jaden Ball. There is Isaac Brown. There is Jaden Woods, the incredible young. The more I watch that kid, the more he is I called him kind of like a Timu Colin Simmons, and maybe that's not fair, but I just don't want to get into the habit of comparing other guys.
Right. That's the edge from Florida, right?
Correct.
Okay.
So, there's a lot of stuff all going on. It does feel like you have to start with Cam Coleman, right?
I would think so. Yeah. I mean, everybody seems to agree that that's one of the biggest targets. The fact that he's in the portal now. By the way, 30 Auburn guys I saw in the portal today. If on three, I looked at the On3 portal page, 30 different guys at Auburn headed in. Yeah, he's the biggest name. If I'm a Texas fan, that's what I want to hear. How much closer are they to maybe getting Cam Coleman?
Closer, the kid's getting, it's presumably at some point, it's interesting. Is he going to take visits? I really think right now this is a Texas and Texas A&M conversation. There's been some Alabama talk, but and Alabama could have a boatload of money available with some of the wide receiver department. Jermani Bernard leaves, and then who knows what happens with Ryan Williams.
Right, and we know they're not paying running backs, so.
So there's a lot of things I suppose that could happen, but it does feel like a Texas A&M thing. That is a pair of back-to-back visits that he can make pretty easily. That in the world of, we think about 5 official visits for high school recruits, and certainly in the portal as well prior to this year, you tend to think of them as, well, he can get one a weekend. You want to get a good 2 days, but then you don't see those strung together back-to-back-to-back. It's not crazy to think that he could fly into Austin, immediately drive out to A&M, come back, spend a couple of days in Austin, hop on an airplane, go back wherever he wants to go. So I don't even know if getting the first visit with this kid he is his own unique deal. I think the general rule of thumb is you want to get the first visit because of the way these two are connected. And because it really may be one or the other, and because they're 60 minutes away from each other in a car ride, it might just be different than every other recruitment that we see. Still, I'm waiting to see who gets the first visit. I'm still hearing that Texas feels confident. Remember we did the show yesterday, and I was like, look, I'm trying not to make too big of a deal out of this. But I got really positive feedback on where Texas stands with Cam Coleman. And I was like, but I'm not screaming for the rafters because I don't want to get in trouble if this thing goes sideways. Well, the Cam Coleman Texas stuff's out everywhere, right? On3 is reporting on it. 24/7 is reporting on it. There are multiple people saying Texas is probably the betting favorite at this point. I don't think anybody is so far down the road that we're seeing big, bold claims made. But the buzz still seems, I think, to favor Texas right now. But nobody should get cocky over that. Doesn't feel like – I think the big thing that happened yesterday, Chad, was last night. Kirk Bowles made a tweet. where he essentially said, hey, FYI, things look good for Texas and Cam Coleman. Had that been the only part of that tweet, I think it would have got more play for what was valuable about that.
Yeah.
Because along with myself and a couple of others, not many people were pushing the Cam Coleman to Texas thing as a live wire. But then he threw in $4 million as a potential ceiling for that. And that got to be the thing that anybody paid attention to.
The money
it was like,
part, yeah.
He might get $4 million. What does that mean? The world's coming to an end. All of the reactions that you can imagine would have occurred. I have not heard that the bidding has been out of this world crazy. I'll be completely honest. It sounds like a good deal to me. Just, I've not heard the thing and been like, oh my God, really? No, it's sounds like they have not hit 3, so don't worry about 4, although I'm sure it's noon on Friday. The agent's probably working overdrive to get 3. And then, hey, once you've hit 3, maybe Kirk was right. Maybe then you hit 4. I think it sounds like to me the money is roughly even. We're probably talking north of 2, south of 3, somewhere in the middle is probably not a terrible landing spot, 2.5. I think the money's all kind of equal. So then it may come down to, because I said this earlier with the show that I did with Onward. I don't think either Texas or Texas A&M are going to lose Cam Coleman because one of the two bid $300,000. You know what I mean? Like,
right. Yeah. It's
for Cam Coleman, it's the right two schools to have pitted against each other.
Yeah. By the way, I laughed today when I looked at On3's board. They had his portal value at 1.8. And I thought, I bet the Longhorns and Aggies would be great to hear 1.8 right now.
So I think that I think if you're a Texas man, if you're a Texas fan right now, you're just crossing your fingers.
Yeah.
I don't know where we would say the ball is on the field. Are they in the red zone? Are they on the other side of the 50? Feels like I think they're on the other side. They're on the right side of the 50. They're driving. I just don't know how far they are. And I haven't even completely been able to get someone to tell me, what are we judging? What's a good sign? What's a bad sign? That's one of the things I've been trying to learn a little bit today is, should I panic? When should I panic in terms of, if that kid's going to go to A&M and I don't want to be the last one to know. And I don't want everybody on Orange Bloods to be the last one to know either. So informing my people is at the very top of my priority list. I haven't heard anything that is even remotely slow your horses with regards to Cam Coleman. That also goes with Isaac Brown. I'm fully expecting that kid to be a Longhorn at this point. The guy that I have is the number 2 player in the transfer portal right now in my rankings. Jaden Ball is the guy that has been connected to Texas. If either one of those guys is 1A and the other one is 1B, one of those guys is in the portal and the other guy's not. And you're not going to mess around with the guy that's literally on a hook, because another fish you like just as much. They're different fish, but you like them evenly. You're not going to throw the fish off the hook. You go, well, for reasons that we can't really explain, we're going to wait here. It's just not going to happen. So I think that there's a little bit of, is Jaden Ball going to end up in the portal today or not? And
he's got 2 weeks to do it.
He does, but
if he wants, I mean,
I don't think anybody's, maybe, I don't know. The thing is, if you're Ball and you want Texas, he has to know. You don't think his agent or somebody has told him, hey, did you see that crystal ball that put Isaac Brown to Texas?
Right. No, I don't understand why Ball would wait if he's going in. If he's going to go in, he needs to go as quickly as possible. And we also have not heard, there's been zero, there are crystal balls for Isaac Brown to Texas, to Penn State has jumped into as a team that he's going to be visiting on Tuesday, or you know what I mean? Like, so I just think that right now, it's all like full speed ahead. And then, I posted an update on Jaden Woods, the edge kid out of Florida, who is a Colin Simmons light, if you will.
Texas seems to have some real. It feels like Texas is on the other side of the 50 with that kid too. One of the unique differences there is that he hasn't told Florida no yet. And you wonder with some of the Florida stuff if they're just the last to know. It's like, oh, well, he may get on a plane to Austin and they may be, and it's not about money. And it's all of these things, losing sides of these things tell themselves. For instance, the new one is anytime a kid enters the transfer portal, it's like, well, he asked for an outrageous number. Like, that's the new thing. The new thing is talk your part. This has happened to Parker Livingston in the last 24 hours. It kind of started, oh no, Parker's gone. What a shock. And then before you're done, 24 hours into that story, there's a narrative that starts to spread that's Parker went in, asked for like $1 million, and they said no. And I was like, there's more nuance to this. I don't think they wanted to pay Parker Livingston any dollars. So he could have gone in and asked for a minimum wage, and they may have said, we are upgrading the position. Help is on the way. We're really not trying to put any more money at wide receiver than we're already going to make. I also think Parker Livingston is under the impression that Cam Coleman is going to be a Longhorn. So Parker can count to 4. And if it's like, okay, they're going to pay Cam Coleman and they're going to pay Ryan Wingo and they're going to pay Emmett Mosley, and all 3 of those guys play at my position and all 3 of those guys make a lot more money than I do, where does that at best put me 4th?
Right.
I just think that he's like, there's just more to this than he walked in and asked for $1 million and they said no. And he said, deuces, I'm out of here. That's not how these things are. That's not how they work. And I just think that stop yourself as a college football fan. If you find yourself falling prey to the, everybody's just asking for $1 million. All these situations have more going on than that. And, I think probably with Parker, I think he probably, if he felt like, thing is, they didn't want to pay him because they don't expect him to be a major contributor to the offense next year. What the hell else is he supposed to do at that point? So, it's like, no, I don't know. I just hate the idea that we're going to make the kid the bad guy because he walked in and asked for some outrageous amount of money. Fans are going to have to let me know what the arbitrary number is that's insulting, right? If he'd gone in and asked for $300,000, would that have been insulting? And if he had and they'd said no, when do we get to be mad at the schools? Or do we just get to accept that it's a complicated business? It's like being married, man. It's hard for everybody to be happy at the same time. It's hard. It's a job. And it's no different in these types of relationships. It's more nuanced than he walked in and asked for half the national debt. And of course they said no, and they clutched their pearls. Just does my head in.
I see a chat I like. I don't see any super chats right now. If you want to throw your super chats in, we will get to them. Also, we'll thank some of our great partners like AV Consultations. It is just this simple. We got a real college football playoff now. It should expand. It probably will. The games have been crazy cool to watch. You got NFL playoffs coming. You got all the stuff that streams on all these different platforms. You need a big badass screen. And if you don't have it, this is the place that can do it for you. 255-8678. They've been in business since 1988, locally owned and operated, killing it around the Austin area. If you go to Pluckers, if you go to Cover 3, they set those places up. You can get ideas that way and then call them 255-8678 or go to avconsultations.com. Tell them you heard about it here on OB Live. We thank them for their support. We thank you, obviously, for jumping in the Specs chat as well. Catch, I like this one along the receiver line, even though it's not a super chat. Vivek, one of our great chatters, says, will Wingo be okay with $500 to $750K if Coleman gets 2.5? So let me just set that world up. if it's 2.5 for Coleman and they get Coleman for that money, is that fair for the Wingo number for you, or is the Wingo number north of that?
I think the Wingo number may be north of that slightly.
We can go get a mill?
Maybe north of 750, but not quite a mill.
Okay.
I was told, look, I guess this is the best way to say it, right? Because I get a little icky sometimes with the numbers. And look, sometimes I'm told numbers.
Mm-hmm.
For instance, I asked today about a guy that's in the portal. And I just said, hey, what's the going rate for a guy like this? I did this with, oddly, I did it exactly with the same thing with Cam Coleman a couple of weeks ago. I was just curious. I wasn't really fishing to see if Texas was interested in Coleman. I just wondered, what the hell's Cam Coleman going for once he hits the portal? And I was kind of asking the same thing about a different player in the portal because I was just curious, like, what's the market? So I asked about a guy. I won't even say who it was. I said 500,000, and the guy was like, "Oh yeah, maybe even 6." But I was like, "Okay, that gives me an idea of where we're talking about from a marketplace standpoint." That will help me with a ton of guys because I'll be able to either that guy at another position or something like that. I just needed some information about what's happening. I know I've been told. I say all of that because I'm about to get vague with Wingo. I was told by somebody, well, a couple of people that would know, but somebody more specific than another, that Ryan Wingo was paid wide receiver 1 money. Now, I saw an article that I think On3 did that listed the top reported salaries. Oh, I wish I could find it. I might even look for it in the next break. And it listed a bunch of wide receivers and what they were getting paid, right? So Jeremiah Smith at Ohio State, $4.5 million. And then it kind of immediately drops down to Eric Singleton, which was like a 1.7 or something like that. And there is this system, a little bit like the head coach's salaries, where it's like Kirby makes 11, and then there's a bunch of guys that just slightly less than that. And then I think they listed Wingo around the 750 to a mil range.
Okay.
And I remember thinking that sounds about right, because based on their scorekeeping, it would have put him somewhere in the top 10, top 15 nationally in wide receivers. And I was like, okay, that sounds about right. So I think he's getting more, slightly more. I just haven't heard that there's any issues with Wingo. Okay. I have heard that there are guys. Now, look, does it change? Look, I will say this. If they can get Cam Coleman for $2.5 million, and it means that they lose Ryan Wingo, I think they would take Cam Coleman in the $2.5 million.
Right.
There's just Ryan Wingo is a tier below that. Cam Coleman is the guy that they thought Ryan Wingo was going to be all season long. And that's who Cam Coleman is. And so, and Ryan Wingo finished the season really strongly, but he's still not a number 1. You're still waiting for him to take that step. It would be a very Ohio State thing to do, to have a true number 1 first-round draft pick at 1 wide receiver, and then a younger guy who develops into exactly that. Ohio State saw that this season. I think Carnell Tate has turned into that kind of player as the B-side to Jeremiah Smith. I think that's what Texas is hoping for and shopping for, with the idea that Emmett Mosley could be a number 3. I think there's probably another wide receiver that they would go after in the portal to work in the slot to give Dalen McCutcheon some competition, although Emmett Mosley did play some there while he was at Stanford. So I have not heard, oh, well, if we do this, it's going to cause this to happen. And I usually talk to people that's how they talk. There's a lot of their concerns are always well, what's the fallout on this? That's their jobs, to pay attention to the fallout. And I just, at this point, have not been hearing that there's an issue there.
Vivek, as always, thank you for the chat. First super chat looks like this from Trey. Trey, calm down. $1.99. We do appreciate that. Every little bit helps. When should we expect Isaac Brown to make a decision. He is definitely in the portal. This is the running back, of course, from Louisville. You hearing a timeline on Brown or anybody for that matter?
Not a ton. Not anything specific. I heard last night that by the time we do the Monday show that there could be a handful, like a really strong, pushing maybe even closer to double digits if everything went according to plan and, things that they thought might happen actually happened. But nobody has said. Now, I do think, the kicker from Memphis is you can pretty much chalk him up as the first member of the transfer portal class.
Okay. Yeah, I was going to ask you about it. So let me see if I get this. Gianni Spetic, Spetic, the last name?
Yeah, I think he made 15 of 20 this season from field goals. He was a Groza Award semifinalist.
4 out of 5 from 50 plus. I like that.
I had someone drop this in my lap last night, and I've vetted it by a couple of people, and this consensus was like, oh, yeah, no, that's been done for a while. I think I think On Texas Football may have reported the same thing. I think we reported it in the war room. Hey, keep an eye on this kid. Pretty specific. No other kickers have even been mentioned, but watch this one. And then I think that I hadn't even seen officially what the language is, but I think they mentioned that he would be likely the number one first recruit in this class.
Mm-hmm.
They got a kicker. And I haven't had anybody message me to say, Catch, what are you doing? That's wrong. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So that's a good thing because we've talked about it. See, it seems small with these other discussions, but each and every year you've talked about it. You probably should go into the portal and grab a punter and a kicker every single year just to be sure.
And you really need to do that now because you don't have your walk-on program. It used to be that if a kicker got hurt, my reaction would be, well, who are the 5 guys that are walk-ons that are just – I mean, one of my favorite things when I would go watch practice at Texas would be I'd get a kick out of how many kickers there were, and they just all travel in a pack to every station doing kicker things. But it wasn't like in the NFL, there's always 2 kickers. It's 2 punters, and they just do everything together. But in college, they have a pack, like a wolf pack. And they don't have that anymore. The walk-on program's dead. You're on scholarship if you're going to be a kicker. And they had to find a way to boost those numbers. They only have, unless they're bringing back one of these walk-ons, officially by my count, they only have 1 kicker on the books as a scholarship athlete next year. That's the true freshman, Jake Collette.
Mm-hmm.
This gives you a second guy. You probably need to go get a third. And when you say 105, I think people don't realize you don't have a walk-on program anymore. So, I mean, I guess technically you could make the kids pay for it. But did they have 105 to give out? And we didn't hear Sark say, we're not going to 105 because we're going to have 15 walk-ons. That's not quite what he said either. It was still a little confusing to me what's happening with the walk-ons. Yeah. But yeah, they've got to figure out a way to get more guys there. So even if they get this kid out of Memphis, I don't know that they'll be done. They probably need to find another guy to say, and you can find guys. I mean, again, they can even be walk-on type players, but until I see something that lets me know that someone's confirmed that they're on the team in that type of and it could happen, right? I mean, it could just as easily be like one of these guys that's been a walk-on they put on scholarship, but we don't know who that is yet. So anyway, sorry. Many special team scholarship board rant over.
Trey, thank you for the question about Isaac Brown. I think we need to talk. We'll talk some more running backs. There's another running back I want to ask Catch about. If you guys want to throw us a super chat, it will go right in there. Also, big shout out to those 2 logos you see every single day, Texas Card House and Specs. Texas Card House, of course, brings you those great 6 locations around the state. They also bring you Hijack Poker, online poker. Go to hijackpoker.com. There's your QR code. You can scan it, put it on any device you want. get that $20 bonus. And remember, when you check in at a Texas Card House location, make sure you mention Orange Bloods at check-in. You get that 1 month free club membership, 2 hours of free poker play as well. And of course, the Specs chat is here every single day. Get the Specs app on your phone, get all stocked up at Specs, all the drinks, all the finer foods, everything you want. And you probably did that and then ate it all for New Year's. So go get restocked at Specs. Shout out to Lisa and the crew at Specs for helping us out as well. So catch on Isaac Brown real quick. Somebody was mentioning the stats, the 8.8 a carry, I think has jumped out to people. Give me some more thoughts on Isaac, because what I liked about him, now that we've seen this perspective of what Miami is doing, he had 7.5 a carry against Miami. That was one of their losses. Miami lost at home to Louisville. He went to that game went 15 carries, 113 yards, 7.5 a carry. He got hurt a little later in the season, as you've pointed out, and ends up playing, I think, 9 games total. But for you, like, if it ends up being Isaac Brown, how big a deal would that be for Texas? Like, what kind of back do you think he can be in a transition to the SEC?
I think he's very Jahmyr Gibbs-ish in kind of making the exact same move that Gibbs made when he comes from Georgia Tech and gets a season at Alabama to prove play at that level, can be an NFL player. And then, I even remember when Gibbs went to the NFL, I kind of doubted that pick.
I did too.
Really? I was like, Jahmyr Gibbs? Really?
I didn't doubt he could be an NFL player. I just doubted it at that spot.
Yeah.
I didn't know if he was worth that pick.
I think this guy's sensational. This is a guy that has a chance to be a first or second day, certainly a second. I think he could stay at Louisville and be a second day pick. I think, that guy's talented enough that if he picks the right location, and maybe going to play at Texas with Arch Manning isn't the best thing for a possible Heisman campaign, but there's a world where that guy goes to Michigan or a place that will feature a running back and be a playoff level team. And that guy, I think he is at his best, that level of player. I love him. He is a souped up version of Jaden Blue. So he replaces everything that Blue took with him when he left, but he's so much better than Jaden Blue. He's a rich man's version of Jaden Blue, which is why, he plays in 9 games, and one of those games, I think, is one of the games he got hurt. He only had a couple of carries, but 6 100-yard games of the games that he played in. He makes it look really easy almost every week. It's staggering to go game by game and just see the yards per carry in the game, because it doesn't matter. Everybody can get some.
Yeah. The other thing that jumps out to me, Catch, he gets hurt on November 1st. He rehabs. He comes back for the bowl game on December 23rd, 10 carries, 103, 2 touchdowns. So there is something to that. Like, for you old school football fans, coaches, fans, and teammates love that kind of stuff.
And their record, I think they were 7-1 with Brown on the field this year.
Is that right?
And I think they lost every game but one without him. So
also from the visual, I like the fact that he switched from like 25 last year to number 1. Running backs don't wear number 1 a lot. He justified it this year, looking really good. But I just love the fact, I love stories like that where the guys are still working and they're coming back for a bowl. Catch, he came back for a bowl against, I don't even know who they played. I mean, it wasn't like it was, the biggest game of their life. It wasn't a playoff game, obviously, but he worked his way back and he had 10 yards of carry in the game. That's awesome.
I mean, that's just and I don't think Texas is going to be done at the running back position in the portal just with him. He would be the big ticket item. And I think, quite frankly, I think the pairing of him and Derek Cooper makes for a really fascinating 1-2 punch. There's some real thunder and lightning kind of stuff going on there.
Do you like him enough that you'd take him out of Ball, Lacey, and him and just get him? You just get one. Would you take Brown and be happy?
It's hard for me.
because I love Lacey. Like
if
Lacey's
you
still
can
my
tell
favorite.
me that you can go get Kawan Lacey, then it's hard for me after I literally watched him last night.
I know.
Be the difference between those two teams, quite frankly.
Yeah,
There are a lot of guys that you could point to and say that Ole Miss had the better player at that. You could do that at the quarterback. There's a couple of positions you could look at and go, that guy's there. There's a couple of them, but he's one of them.
Yep.
And I watched that last night, and I just kept thinking to myself, man, Texas has a chance. They could get in on that guy.
I know.
But, and maybe some of it is confirmation bias. Maybe there's an indication that guy is either going to go at a cost or go to LSU. There's a lot of assumptions about what happens with him. He has to come back for another year, for those of you wondering. He's not draft eligible.
Who are you talking about has to come back?
Lacey.
Right. Oh, yeah.
So, I think there's some assumptions about how that's going to play out. I don't know. I know this. This is what I know. Isaac Brown's in the portal now.
Right. He's in. The other two are not.
He's not told you that he's going in and hasn't gone in. He doesn't have a former head coach at some school that people just keep talking about. It's a foregone conclusion. He's going to go play for him. He is in the portal with a do not contact sign on his name. Don't bother calling me. And everybody thinks he's going to Texas. What are we doing?
And an 8.8 and an 8.8 yard average is not bad. Here's something I know, Catch. $50 super chat. Jacko is back in the chat. Welcome back, Jacko. $50 super chat, and he's asking about old number 7, actually young number 7. Kalik's role next season in 2026. We talked a little bit about this yesterday. What do you think?
I think realistically, he now gets to be Parker Livingston, but not the Parker Livingston of this year, who started the year as a co-starter, and then even at the end of this past week, played the most snaps of any receiver on the team, in part because Mosley and Wingo got banged up in the game, but he played like 50-something snaps. He was looking at his role 5 minutes ago before he put in his name into the transfer portal and said, okay, Coleman, Wingo, okay, Mosley, me. Well, the me's gone. And now Lockett slides up one and goes, okay, well, let me count. Coleman, Mosley, Wingo, me. So he's fourth in the pecking order of the outside wide receivers right now. Are they going to go get anybody else in the portal? Is he patient enough to go, well, look, Coleman's gone after next year. Wingo's gone after you know what I mean? This thing looks different in 2027 than it looks necessarily go in 2026. Most guys are not patient. I don't know Khalid Lockett where his head is after less than a year in Austin with regards, but I think he has to feel good about what happened in the bowl game. I thought he went out and made a play. And I thought, you know who didn't make a play? One of the guys that just left.
Right.
Livingston didn't make a play.
Yeah. And I wonder how much that affected Sark. If Lockett asks Sark, where do I fit in 2026? What's the answer after that play?
Well, I mean, if you could get Khalid Lockett to leave, can I just say the quiet part out loud?
Sure.
If you could convince that kid to just walk away, oh, man, you could put that money to good use, to something that goes beyond your fourth outside wide receiver. There's no getting around the fact, as well paid as he is on paper, if they get Cam Coleman, he looks like the number 4 outside receiver. Now, could he change the dynamics? Yeah. He's super talented. Could he overtake Emmett Mosley? Yes. Could he overtake Ryan Wingo? I kind of think Ryan Wingo is the new CJ Baxter. He's better.
Oh,
but I kind of feel like that is Sark's boo.
Wow.
He loves Ryan Wingo. And I think he loves him even more now. So, no, he probably couldn't replace Wingo. But, you know, if he keeps – I don't know. I just know this. I think he makes enough money that it'll be hard for him to walk away, because I don't know that he's leaving and getting that much money somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
But his role is limited right now on paper. And I think this is the crux of a lot of situations that we see pop up. How do you weigh money versus opportunity versus, it's a little bit like, Chad, you can go make $500,000 a year. Sweet. Say no more. Like, what do I got to go do? Well, you got to move to Antarctica and live in an igloo, and like nobody's going to, that's, it's like, oh shit, really? Like, you know what I mean? Like, there's a little bit of that. And I think Khalik's got to like figure that out. And I think that's a real personal decision. I bet Khalik's people, there will be some people who are like, dude, be patient. You've only been at this place for 12 months. And there will be other people who are like, yo, you can do, but you are so much better than this. What does he think of himself? Can he have a real honest conversation? Does he think he's been mistreated, or does he see what the coaches see? Does he understand why he's a little bit behind in the pecking order? Can that be overcome? Does he truly understand what he needs to do to take those steps? I mean, these are questions, these are rhetorical questions at this point, because if they had answers, we wouldn't even be having this conversation. These all exist because I think he's in a real nebulous place of uncertainty right now with what should he make as a priority when trying to make this decision. And it's not easy.
Jacko, thank you so much for that super chat. Here's another one from my guy, Trey. What's up, Trey? Hope everything's good. 1999. Happy New Year, guys. Love the show, and thanks for all you do. I will, of course, be excited for wide receivers and running backs, but where's the beef? O-line is a must-get to make me truly hopeful for next season's team to be legit championship contenders. Hook 'em. Catch, we talked about this yesterday. It's weird to me. I keep waiting. I know it's a position not everybody follows super closely, but I feel like we don't have a name out there. A big beef, big badass offensive line name yet. Do we? Like you mentioned the cat that was at LSU.
Yeah.
That's kind of the only, is he the only name that's sort of out there right now?
Kind of. There are some other big names, but some of the bigger names on the offensive line board are tackles. And Texas is not really shopping for tackles.
Right. Every time I look at that portal, I try to go to that IOL, interior offensive line, to try to figure out what might be there. You
try to, but it's not quite as deep. I think that there are, my hunch is that the guys that Texas is hoping to bring in through the portal at that position have just not announced yet. And I think that you're still going to see a lot of that. Guys that haven't announced, that are waiting until something is official. And one thing to keep an eye on that I heard today, and I would just throw this out as a real, just file it away for whenever it's needed from a situation standpoint. But I was told today that all of the schools are seeing the agents tell their clients, no reason to announce a decision early. Wait. Your leverage goes up. You might make more money. There's no harm in waiting.
Yeah. I might wait till next week towards the semifinal games too. That's not what fans want to hear. I might wait till then though. Why do it this weekend with the last week of the NFL? Everything will get swallowed up that way. Why not next Tuesday or Wednesday, right before the next semifinal? It's a question that's being asked and discussed. And, right. If you just want to get it over with, then hey man, do you. But if you can stomach the calls and the questions that you're going to get, you can just stomach that. We might make an extra $250,000 out of it. And is that worth it? And the agent will say, look, it's just my job. If you're Cam Coleman, you could spend the next few days scaring the hell out of Texas and Texas A&M. Now, look, it's better for the school. And a school might also say, look, we can't wait that long. Mm-hmm. If you're A&M and Texas,
and he were to delay it, that let's say until, I don't know, days before the portal ends, guys, so many decisions have already been made. So it would be, I think, a cat and mouse game at some point where if you were Texas, you would go, oh, wait a minute now. He's the guy we definitely want. But can we afford to come out of this with nobody?
Right. Yeah.
And they probably can't. They probably can't. They do need upgrades at wide receiver. They do now need to replace Parker Livingston and DeAndre Moore. You still don't fully know what you have with Ryan Wingo. I mean, nobody in Austin is really quite ready to say he's a number one. He just doesn't catch the ball consistent enough. You don't know if you throw him the ball on 3rd and 6, if he's the right guy to throw the ball to on 3rd and 6. So he can't be by definition. If you don't know if he's the guy that you should throw the ball to, he ain't a number one. Yep. If Cam Coleman comes to Texas and it's 3rd and 6, everybody in the entire stadium knows that he should be getting the ball. But when you're as dope as guys like that are, they still get open. They still make plays. That's why they get paid as much as Cam Coleman's about to get paid. And that's why I always think about this, Chad, like fantasy football. I would always rather have $1 than 3 quarters, 2 dimes, and a nickel. And I feel that way about talent. Give me the $1. Don't tell me about how many guys you can get to add up to $1. But I do think Texas is at a point. There are other receivers that would really help this team. And we have seen Texas do this song and dance at wide receiver before. It was just 2 years ago, man, when they were waiting on Isaiah Bond. And they were like, we're waiting and we're waiting and we're waiting. And they did get Matthew Golden, but at the time, that didn't feel as monumental as it turned out. But they were like, we're big game hunting. We're waiting. All these other dudes, we'll take our chances. We're waiting and we're waiting. And then the portal shut and they were just waiting. And then Nick Saban retired and it changed the dynamics of history at that point. But Texas has done the thing and lost. They know what it's like to be like, we're passing on these guys that we know can help us because we want to wait for the special one. And they know what it feels like to think we're going to wait and to be disciplined and to make that concession and then to get burned by it. It doesn't matter that a couple of days later it all got reversed. For a couple of days, they had to live with crap. We didn't get the guy that we want to be wide receiver 1 for Quinn this year, right? They were replacing at the time Adonai Mitchell and Xavier Worthy, and they needed an alpha 1 to be the guy, and that's what they brought Isaiah Bond in to be. But originally, it looked like there were big questions. That back then, it looked like Jonte Cook was really going to matter.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Time does change things. One more super chat I see is $4.99 from Brian. And I'm reading it, but I need to put it up on the screen and read it. There it is, $4.99. If Texas misses on Coleman, who's up next? Who do you think will be wide receiver or running back 1, wide receiver 1 after the portal window closes? If you had to say today, eat enchiladas for Cam. We hadn't had that idea yet. I'm sure Ketch will consider that. Who's up if they missed on Coleman? Good question.
It is a good question because I wonder how I would imagine they're working this is where like Brandon Harris has to be really good at his job. Because I'm going to tell you that Colorado wide receiver Marion Miller is, I think, a top 10 guy in the class of portal guys that we've seen. I think he's really good. He's nowhere near Cam Coleman, but he's really good. I think he's probably like a second day NFL draft kind of a guy. But everybody's going to want him. So how do you recruit that guy? And he's clearly not your priority when you're dealing with a bunch of schools that will make him their number 1 priority. I mean, that guy jumps to mind. It is after that. Now we go down to levels. I'm just going to.
Yeah,
let me tell you who we are. once you get beyond those couple of guys so far,
right,
you're kind of in the DeAndre Moore territory of these guys are all really good players. Do any of these guys have a level that goes beyond really good? And I think at that point, you might just be trading one DeAndre Moore in for another in terms of who they are as players right now. So I don't know. It's a great question.
Yeah, and that's why the fight for Cam Coleman is such a big deal. I mean,
Nick Marsh, the wide receiver from Michigan State, who I think is.
I was going to ask about him. At one point, he was the guy that was kind of on top of the list before the Coleman thing really cranked up.
Do you know what my note on him is?
What's that?
I think he's basically the Midwest version of DeAndre Moore.
Wow. Okay.
And I didn't mean that to be like I've got him ranked pretty high.
Right. But not a wide receiver one that you're going to go out of your way to go get.
Not even close.
Yeah.
But there are guys like Danny Scudero, the slot receiver at San Jose State that caught like a bazillion passes for a bazillion yards this year. Texas saw him early in the season. I think he had like 7 for 75 against the Longhorns. If you're just looking for a slot, a guy that could be your Wes Welker of sorts, if you know what I mean. I'm being pretty, whatever, little white guy kind of a thing. A guy like that's available. You start scrolling down and there's just a drop off. We get to DeAndre Moore. And at that point, it's like, well, there's a kid named Terrell Anderson that's at NC State that's okay. I read today that Texas Tech looks like the team that is probably the favorite for him. And we're at that territory where some of these guys are going to go to Texas Tech's and not Ohio State and not Georgia and not Texas and not Alabama and not Oregon. So I think that's the thing about the wide receiver list right now is that beyond, I think, probably Miller and Coleman, there aren't a lot of guys on the market yet whose names would make you think that the big dogs are going to them. There's no Zachariah Branch outside of Cam Coleman, right? There were guys last year that had some sticker value that if I said their names, you'd go, oh, that guy's available. There's one of those guys right now, and it's the one we led the show with.
Yeah. And by the way, Harish, you're asking, are we saying you guys need to eat enchiladas? Couldn't hurt. Y'all go eat enchiladas and maybe the Cam Coleman thing.
Can I make a confession?
Sure.
There's a place down the street from me called Natalita's, number 2.
Yeah.
When we go there, it is a bit of a family, like my family loves the place.
Okay. So that sounds familiar. Did you do enchiladas there during
the
season?
They did the best enchiladas of all the enchiladas that I had.
Okay. That sounded familiar to me.
I am getting enchiladas there instead of fajitas when I go there.
Really?
I doubt I would do that anywhere else, but I do have, you asked me once upon a time, did I like them enough that I would order them of my own? And the answer is yes.
Yeah, that's good. So you found a version of enchiladas that this particular day you're thinking, hey, I'm going to have that instead of my go-to fajitas.
Yes.
That's cool. Very cool. Well done, enchiladas. What kind of enchiladas, by the way?
Chicken fajita.
Chicken fajita enchiladas. Well done. You said Natalita's number 2?
Yes.
There you go. Got to try it. All right. I see a couple chats that I like. Speaking of food, got a couple of those ideas for you today. Take advantage of this warmer weather and head on out to Hayes City Store. I'll show you the chicken fried steak. That's the queso over there on the left. But I would also recommend trying that home run dip. The girls taught me into the queso because they love the queso. But I'm telling you, those chips are the best I've ever had. And the home run dip gets you the salsa, the queso, plus the guac, plus the incredible bean dip that will change your life. The middle picture there is the great ice house area that if it does get a little chilly, they've got flaps and they can do heaters. But if it's a little warm, they've got fans out there. It's a great place to hang. The bar's off in the distance there. They have great drinks. The food is excellent. You'll love it. Don't be in a hurry. Get out to Driftwood and tell them we sent you. Hayes City Store. Travis, Tammer, and the crew are waiting on you. Thanks to them for their great support here. Tell them you heard about it on Orange Bloods Live. All right, let's see. One of these is actually a super chat. Brian threw us a little bit. We appreciate you, Brian. What if Ryan Williams enters after yesterday?
Well, then you got a guy that moves the needle a little bit. I think he profiles for me similar to a Zachariah Branch, a guy that goes into college. You think he's going to be a top 10 NFL pick, has plateaus a little bit. And then there's some questions about what he is. And I thought Zachariah Branch was great in that game last night. I found myself thinking, Georgia they did the fewest amount of portals of any of the teams that were in the playoff top 25. I think only 10% of their starts this year came from the portal. And most of those had to have come from Branch. But where would they have been without Zachariah Branch? It felt like he was easily the best thing about that offense. And when they could get him the ball, good things happened.
Okay, this is interesting to me. Sandman throws this one out. Would you make that equivalency? Is it that? Ryan Williams did not have a terrific year. Is he exactly what Ryan Wingo is right now?
Well, I mean, if your big issue is drop passes with Wingo, consistency of catching the ball, Ryan Williams had some real consistency issues catching the ball.
Yeah.
Now, I don't think they're the same player. And I would rather have Ryan Williams' overall skill set than Ryan Wingo's overall skill set.
Okay, I agree with that.
But I do think that I understand what he's saying. And the other thing about that, the maybe unspoken thing that I'll speak right now is you may also be talking about a guy who's talked about and thought of or expected to be a number one wide receiver, but hasn't proven yet to be a number one wide receiver. And though they're both that, I think.
Okay, fair enough.
But ask me who I would want if given a choice.
Who do you want if you can
Ryan
only
Williams.
have one?
I won't even let you finish the sentence. Ryan Williams.
Yeah, me too. Here's an interesting receiver question. Catch Vivek back in with, is Cam Coleman a better version of Adonai Mitchell? Similar big frames and good long speed. Is that the comp you'd make?
Cam Coleman to me is Matthew Golden all over again. Like, to me, that's who Cam Coleman is.
He's so good, man. He's so good.
I think they do a lot of the same things. I think they have the same kind of big body.
Yeah, I love Coleman out for those outside the numbers. Go make me a catch kind of catch.
Coleman goes and snatches the ball out of nowhere the way Matthew Golden did. That's probably more so than any reason why I said that. We saw throughout his season at Texas where Quinn had a really good relationship with Matthew Golden. And he would throw him balls that he didn't throw anybody else. And Golden would go get them. I can remember a couple of them in the Michigan game where it was like, so Matthew Golden has that in his repertoire.
Right. And it's such a crazy skill. There's so many of those guys doing that nowadays. Receivers getting better and better, but man, Coleman just feels like he's on a different level. If they just could have found a guy to get him the ball. He had 56 catches.
He really has wasted his career, other than he's been able to stay healthy, right?
56. Singleton had 2 more catches than Cam Coleman did. And I'm like, wait a minute. Y'all couldn't figure out 60 balls for either one of those dudes? Neither of those guys caught 60 in that offense.
It reminds me of Xavier Worthy's first season in Austin when he was playing with Hudson Card and Casey Thompson. Yeah. And at the end of the year, someone put together like a mixtape. It was 5.5 minutes long.
Oh, yeah. Wide open.
And it was just Xavier Worthy running down the field wide open.
Yeah.
And balls just spraying everywhere.
Yeah. I remember you talking about it at the time. Like, that dude gets open like nobody I've ever seen. Nobody can hit him, but he's wide open. Like, he's right there.
I think it was Kieran that put that together.
I was gonna say, wasn't it Kieran that did that?
I think it was, or at least that's where I got it from. But
maybe it was Kieran reacting to it is what got your attention. It was one of those two things. Either Kieran created it, or it was the reaction to it that was so funny. And it's like, oh my God. Yeah. I like this one too, because I'm a big fan of what Pickens does outside the numbers. Cam Coleman is George Pickens at Georgia. Lewis, that's the guy that Pickens has become to me. And I think Cam Coleman is that, maybe a little bit, even a little better. But I know what you're saying. The way Pickens can catch stuff outside the numbers is incredible too. He is great at that. All right. We cleaned out all the super chats. We're obviously talking portal today. This is day one of the portal. We had metal earlier. Let's get this one in. Let's go a little sillier. Portal combat. Come on.
Round one. Fight! Get over here!
There's something about whoo, 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 that I kind of enjoy. Also, another quick drink idea for you. How about a little Deep Eddy vodka? Get on out there and see them. If you're down in the dirty drip and you have not been to the Deep Eddy vodka tasting room, what are you waiting for? If you got a little sweet tooth when you drink, that key lime pie martini is so good. I could spend the rest of the time talking about it. It's incredible. Go try it. Tell them I sent you over there for it. That cold brew martini was great as well. Ask and see if maybe they still have a couple drops of the espresso left. It went real quick back in November, but bring those mason jars and martini glasses back for the discounted refill. Have some Crimson Creek Smokehouse barbecue as well. Enjoy some of this warmer weather. They have outdoor seating as well as the indoor seating. Get on out there. Wednesdays through Sundays, the Deep Eddy Vodka Tasting Room. All right, Catch. Who was I going to? Oh, I know. I wanted to get you to talk about the guy from Arizona State real quick, because Raleek Brown went into the portal. There's been some discussion. He's a highly thought of guy in the Big 12. I think he was like first team all Big 12, if not second team. It's one of the two. Over 1,100 yards, 6 yards a carry. Give me a sense of Raleek Brown. Do you think this is somebody that Texas and big time SEC and Big 10 teams may look at?
I mean, he's first team all Big 12. So, ironically, Oklahoma, who needs running backs? I think Alabama should have an interest in a guy like this. I mean, beggars can't be choosy. I think Texas is in kind of the same boat. They need to get some guys. And
hell, did you catch Ohio State's numbers in that playoff game? 1.9 a carry.
Well, look, and James Peoples, who started the year at Ohio State as their starting running back, he goes into the portal today.
Yeah.
So, I think he's one of these guys that gets to elevate up. And a guy like James Peoples isn't getting to go to an Ohio State level program. One of the things I love about the portal is less the guys go down and more that I love. I saw something earlier today where a guy from Tarleton State was visiting Oklahoma State or something like that. And it was just like, good for him.
No, you're dead on. I love those stories, Catch. There's a kid that played in the Austin area at Vandegrift, and I think it's Miles Coleman is the receiver. He went to North Texas, so he was there with Mestamaker and that crew. He just went into the portal. I am rooting like hell for him. I don't know where he's going to end up, but I want to see him make a step up. And hell, I'm watching that Indiana playoff game. Catch, one of those running backs came with Signetti from James Madison. Came with him from JMU.
No, it is incredibly cool that by the way, hold on. A little bit of breaking news. I'm just scrolling through here.
All right, what do we got?
Well, I can tell you that Texas cornerback Caleb Chester, who was a freshman in this most recent class, he now has added his name to the portal list. Also Colin Page, the walk-on, which I didn't know if that was, I guess he hasn't played a ton, so he's got years of eligibility remaining, but a walk-on who was a senior, he's in the portal. And I don't see anything else since then that is of note. I'm looking for something else, but it's not there. But I can confirm another Longhorn in the portal. I'm going to post a note right now.
Okay. You do that. A couple of super chats we will clean off here as well. Michael, thank you for jumping in. $4.99. Where was Golden ranked in the portal? Comparison to anyone in this year's portal. Did Texas think his ceiling was a first-round pick? It's a good question.
No. I think they thought he was a guy that was going to be an NFL football player, but I don't know that they thought it was going to get to that level. He was for all of the nitpicking about Chris Jackson this year and what didn't happen at that position, he did take a guy like Matthew Golden last year and turn him into a bona fide first-round draft pick, a star.
Yeah.
So no, I don't. Nobody. He was a national top 75 to 150 recruit as a portal guy.
Yeah, but it didn't have like that. It wasn't a Coleman feel when a guy like that.
God no. Oh God no. It was.
Yeah.
It was a bit of an afterthought because the real thought was, well, that guy, because he had been an all Big 12 special teams guy.
Right. Yeah.
So,
he was right. That was about what he had done at that level. Then it's almost like what we just discussed with the Arizona State running back. Like, okay, you did that there. Can it now translate in one of the?
Well, at a minimum, you were replacing Xavier Worthy off of that playoff team and that skill set, while you couldn't replace what he gave you on, and I think Keelan Robinson would have been the other guy, right? So they had special teams guys. And I think what happened was originally when Golden came in, it was like, oh, well, we'll have elite special teams. And then anything you get as a receiver, because he's also a receiver, that'll be great. But nobody was thinking that guy's, in fact, you know what they thought, Michael? I'm so glad you asked this. If Anwar were on the show, he would have already interrupted me, or he would have sat quietly and waited for me to finish a point so that he could make this point, Chad. The second week of was it the second or third day of camp in the spring? Anwar reported that the receiver that Quinn Ewers had the best rapport with in the first week of spring was Matthew Golden.
I remember that.
And people shit their pants.
Jaws dropped.
There's no way. There's no way. Matthew Golden. People were talking about Matthew Golden as if Anwar reporting that he and Ewers had a connection, a good connection, different than everybody else on the team. He was so slept on as a wide receiver that people got mad about that.
Yep.
Legitimately, your sources suck, Anwar. Who's telling? It's like such a weird, like, oh yeah, this is where the sources are really getting us here.
Yeah. It's one of those classic examples I always tell people. I'm like, you do get the difference between they're telling you what they're hearing and they're telling you what they think, right? He didn't tell you what he thought. He's telling you what he's hearing, and then you're ripping him. What? What are you doing?
And so, but it was one of the real funny things as the season went along that year, as Golden kept ascending and ascending and ascending to eventually being as important as any player on that team.
To the point that
not to think back at the scoffs.
Yeah.
That instinctively, that tells you how committed people are to the rankings, that he didn't come with a shiny ranking. Isaiah Bond did. And when people were talking about him ahead of Jonte Cook and ahead of Isaiah Bond, people it did not compute. It's actually funny now. It was funny then. We laughed about it in real time.
Oh, yeah.
But it got funnier and funnier and funnier as he got better and better and better.
Yeah, no kidding. Michael, thank you for that. One other quick super chat here from Oscar 499. Worthy, so good. Mahomes can't even hit him. That's a whole nother discussion, Oscar. That is a whole nother discussion about former Texas receivers and what's going on.
Worthy is such an interesting. I don't know what to make of a guy that everybody he plays with has a hard time.
Yeah, right.
But you know who would have hated him? Troy Aikman.
You think?
Well, because Troy liked to throw his deep balls up Alvin Harper style.
Right.
He liked to let it hang. You really have to thread a needle and hit an incredibly fast-moving target in stride. I don't know that we've ever fully contemplated what it means to throw to somebody who's the fastest man to ever run at the combine.
So do you think now a guy like Quinn Ewers is sitting back like, oh, really? Really? Mahomes has a little trouble hitting him, huh? Interesting.
Well, now look, Quinn's still got to be able to prove that he can also go down the field, but it's a little bit like saying, Chad, he's really good at like math, but he really struggles in geometry. And it's like giving him a present under the tree with just a bunch of shapes and shit. Like, that's not what he needs or wants. And a little bit like that. Quinn, of all of the things that he probably needed to work with, such a fast human being really is asking somebody who's only up to Algebra 1 to try trig. And it's just hard. It was just hard. And to see Mahomes kind of struggle with that, At some point, it's just Worthy's fault.
Yeah, he's just too damn fast.
You're the only guy I've ever heard Mahomes has a problem with. You need to figure it out.
Just too damn fast. Just take a breath and run a little slower. ATX Bates, $4.99 super chat. Offensive play in the CFP is that is the puke emoji. Is puke is terrible. Georgia Ole Miss aside. Well, it's an interesting. Anyway. The quarterback play has been meh. Arch putting on that show is definitely helping portal combat. I mean, obviously last night those two quarterbacks did put on a little show, but you've talked about it, Catch, of what this is going to look like when we're all said and done. How does Arch's performance sort of compare to others? But I definitely think if you are receivers that want to take a step up and be a wide receiver 1 or 2 or whatever it is in the SEC, Arch gave you a good idea where you could go on Wednesday night.
Yeah. And I think, look, if Texas gets Cam Coleman, I wonder if at some point we'll hear him say what put Texas over the top, Arch's performance in the bowl game. It had to have been Cam Coleman would have gone, that game would have been played, and Cam Coleman, as an innocent, objective observer, would have been watching that game knowing that guy could be my quarterback next year. It's him, it's Marcel Reed, it's Ty Simpson. I don't know, right? So he watches the bowl game and he gets the best version of Arch. It's the best version of Arch I think we've ever seen. And who wouldn't want to go play for that? Because in retrospect, when thinking about it, we saw 4 or 5 balls get dropped that if I'm Cam Coleman, all that matters to me is the quarterback made that throw. I just got finished playing a season with Jackson Arnold. I haven't seen a good ball for half my life at this point. You're telling me that guy can make that throw and all he needs is somebody to actually catch it when it hits him in the hand? Sign me up. If I'm Cam Coleman, I watched Texas the other night, and it's not hard to figure out how he fits into this offense.
Yeah, just go to the 2 drops in a row. Go to that one. You think he can catch that ball that Livingston dropped? I do. You think he catches the one Wingo dropped? I do.
I think the most impressive throw that Manny may have made all night was the ball that he threw that ended up being along the signs to McCutcheon, where there's a ton of traffic. There's a real narrow lane just over and under 2 levels of the defense. And it's a ball that McCutcheon has to kind of adjust his body to, but it hits him in the hands.
Right.
And it is a Patrick Mahomes throw. It's one of those where you go, Quinn had a few of those. Occasionally the ball would come out of his hand and you would go, oh God, okay.
Yeah. It's a great though. To me, it's still the thing there was like, he did that. He just needed to do that. And he was fine. I think that's a simple catch for Cam Coleman.
I promise you, Cam Coleman did not have a ball thrown that well to him all season long as the one that McCutcheon dropped along the sidelines.
No.
And so if the money's going to be mostly even, because I am convinced that none of these schools are going to let the other school just punk them in the head over a couple hundred. It's not. Now, maybe A&M and Texas would just have to give the other one a side eye if somebody did something truly crazy. But at some point, this kid has to decide just where do you want to go play?
Right.
We're going to pay you more than anybody other than Jeremiah Smith. You're good. Where do you want to be? I think Texas is really hoping he wants to go play with a guy that's going to be on paper the best quarterback for him to play with, a guy that right now, serious chops, has a 2027 NFL draft #1 overall pick. I watched Marcel Reed in the bowl game. I don't know what to think about that. And, they've got a new OC. And do I really want to go to that? Is that the best place? I may like A&M. I might like the head. I might like everything about it other than I don't know that OC, and I don't know about that quarterback automatically. And then if you look at Alabama, if that were the third school, I don't know, man. Did you watch them last night with your eye on Ty Simpson and go, I'm choosing that over Arch Manning? So one of the real fascinating things is if Cam Coleman doesn't pick Texas, I'm going to watch. Everybody will watch next season through the prism of whoever you picked better be good.
Oh, yeah.
We're going to watch your entire season and say, you could have been here and you went there.
Yeah. Just one other quick question on Coleman we haven't hit yet. Am I right? I'm trying to remember all these guys. Is Coleman the guy that actually was committed to the Aggies at one point and then flipped to Auburn? Is that that is true, right? Okay. So that
There's
might be
always been a wide assumption that he would end up at A&M if he ever entered the portal because of how close that recruitment was when he was being recruited.
So it might be just an extra reason. Like you said earlier, we always talk about you want the first visit. Just might be an extra reason why Texas might want that first visit, knowing that whatever that relationship is. And then to your point on A&M's offense, they are staying in-house, but is that good news or bad news? Like, did he already –
It can't be Steve Sarkisian and his resume. And look, we may nitpick the hell out of Sark.
Right.
But his national rep is massive.
Like if I'm a receiver, it might be positive that you're letting your receiver coach become the offensive coordinator. But in terms of what I know about him as an offensive coordinator, and
contract here, man. If it was show friends, he could just stay at Auburn.
It's like, yeah, it's a big question mark out there because Cam Coleman has got to be thinking about how do I put on the best show possible in 2026. Because he knows he wasted 2025. He knows it. He knows.
Being familiar with the OC now that was the wide receivers coach who doesn't have a resume as like that A&M it's a risk. If Texas had hired a play caller to direct the offense that had never really had no real background as that guy's in charge of an offense, Texas fans would flip the hell out. So, A&M, I don't hate the move. And the guy they hired is a made guy in the coaching circles. It's not like he's not well respected and that kids don't like him and all that stuff. But
there's a difference between being a made guy as a wide receivers coach and call the play.
That's Bobby Jack Wright. Yeah. Everybody loved Bobby Jack.
Right.
But nobody thought Bobby Jack should have been the Texas defensive coordinator in 1997. Yeah. But everybody liked Bobby Jack so much they didn't dare tell him.
Yeah, and somebody else is bringing out the performance A&M had in the playoff game. You mentioned Cam Coleman watching Texas. We don't know that he did this, but maybe he thought, hey, you know what? Deep down, I'm going to be a Longhorn or an Aggie. And if he did sit down and watch the playoff game with A&M and then watch the Citrus Bowl, and obviously you could talk about there's two different days going on there, the crazy wind in College Station, whatever. But in his brain, what he might remember is that quarterback looked like that, and that quarterback looked like that.
And that quarterback looked like that without – the thing is, Marcel Reed's wide receivers are not a problem.
Yeah, true.
You wouldn't look at that and go, oh, he only had Concepcion and Craver to work with this year.
Yeah.
Whereas in Texas, it is the thing that's been a lesson the entire So you would say he looked like that on a night when his top two guys are out, right? Wingo gets hurt. Mosley gets hurt. Moore transfers out of the portal. All of that happened with him carrying an offense that had guys that, for the most part, he won't even – and now that Livingston's gone, you would almost say there's who he played with, he literally won't count on next year in a game.
Yeah.
And so it's a wide open scenario. Like I said, I think Texas feels really good about their position with Coleman. I think they feel like they've got the best business plan to put in front of him. And I can remember when they were the shoe was on the other foot and Jordan Addison had hit the portal and it was like, come play with Quinn. He's a 5-star. Like, you can help him get to be really good. And he said, yeah, no, I could do that. Or I can go live in LA for 6 months, play with Caleb Williams, who's the returning Heisman winner. And then I just go to the NFL and I take no chances. I don't have to build anybody up. I just go to a place that's going to feature me. Mm-hmm. And Texas tried to, we had the best package and we would have been the best fit for him. But at the end of the day, USC had Caleb Williams and Texas didn't. And sometimes it goes that way for you and sometimes it doesn't. right now, Texas is in a position where the last game Arch Manning played in wasn't the Florida game. It wasn't Kentucky. It was the Michigan game, which was the last game that he played in, is the best game I think we've seen him in. It's a hell of a final impression. I would warn everybody, Cade Klubnik did that, I think, a year ago as well. The game against Texas, we all went, wow, that guy's going to be really good. There still is another step to consistently take. But yeah, man, this is what you would dreamed of if you were Texas, that you could have a guy like Manning impact personnel decisions potentially because you've reached a level that other guys want to be a part of.
Yeah, it's a good series of games too. It's not like Arch just played well in the bowl game. Like there's been a series of games here at the end.
He's gotten better throughout the last half of the season, really since the Florida game,
where he's playing well. And again, if you want to make that comparison with him and Marcel Reed has 2 straight games of no touchdowns, 2 picks.
Yeah.
The Texas game and then the playoff, and then one's a home playoff game where they were the higher seed and couldn't live up to it. I mean, yeah, that's.
I still say you and I don't talk about this a whole lot. I don't think other people talk about it. It doesn't really fit into our show, other than I just thought it and I want to say it because I think it's important. Arch's ability to take care of the football is greatly underappreciated. He does not put the ball in bad spots.
No,
for a guy that is as aggressive throwing the ball down the field as he is.
Yeah.
How many interceptions did he finish with?
I'll double check.
It wasn't a ton.
Well, and the other thing, we said it from the very beginning, Catch. We pointed this out even after the Ohio State game had happened, that he wasn't being sloppy. 26 touchdowns, 7 picks. We talked about it from that very first game. Was it good? No, it wasn't. It was not. And he'd have those string of incompletions, and that sucked. But he was not being super sloppy, and he wasn't really putting his team in, the defense in a tough spot with turnovers. It's a good point. And he just kept it throughout the season to where, 7 in a season, you can live with that all day.
So after the Florida game, right? That's the turning point. He only turns the ball over twice the rest of the season after that loss to Florida in week 5 of the season. And that's against number 6 Oklahoma. This is number 6 OU, at Kentucky, at Mississippi State, number 9 Vandy, number 5 Georgia, Arkansas, number 3 A&M, number 18 Michigan. So he plays 5 ranked teams, 4 top 10 teams in a 7-game stretch, 8-game stretch, and he only turns the ball over twice in that entire stretch.
It's big time.
And, I think that the thing you worry about with a young quarterback is that you'll see all of the good, but he'll mix in some terrible. In the end, Arch is terrible, or just like terrible looking throws that hit the ground.
Right. Yeah.
And not other people's hands.
Yeah, it wasn't optimal. It's not what you wanted, but yeah, it was. I mean, that's what we were fishing for towards the beginning of the year. It's like, okay, there aren't any scoop and scores, no sack fumbles. He's not throwing pick sixes. Remember the picks against Ohio State? They were deep in Ohio State territory. He was not turning the ball over in super dangerous spots, and then he just kept getting better and better throughout the season. All right, Catch, anything else you want to hit today?
No, man, let's wrap it up. I mean, I got to get back to hitting F5 and refresh.
I know, it's refresh day.
I don't know what I'm missing.
Day 1 of the portal. Go to the upper left of your screen right there with the QR code. Get signed up for orangebloods.com. You'll get the very latest information. Plus, like, subscribe, and get your notifications here on the YouTube channel, because you never know when a show's going to pop up when, I don't know, maybe if Cam Coleman decides he's coming to Texas.
I promise we will do that.
Might be a surprise reaction show. You never know. Get your notifications for that. Y'all enjoy your weekend. We'll be back on Monday at 12 for sure, live right here on Orange Bloods Live.